Grand evening, everyone. It is Monday, November 3rd, 2025, 2300 hours in the evening, more accurately at night, Central Standard Time. And we have some code red breaking news. Quite a few different things to talk about here the last few days. News from the last few days is what I meant to say. This is initially a live stream recording that is posted to my YouTube channel. Let's continue. We're going to start right around let's see here. We're going to start all the way over here. Right here. So, the Pentagon has authorized Tomahawk missiles to be delivered to Ukraine. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, has not authorized that very such thing yet. President Donald Trump has not authorized those deliveries, and he's still deciding on whether to send the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine because the president is that worried. President Donald Trump is that worried that sending the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine for them to be used on Russia could really result in total escalation, likely to the nuclear level very quickly, because Russia themselves recently has even said that they will strike U.S. cities if Tomahawk missiles are given to Ukraine to be used on Russia, deep into Russian territory. If those Tomahawks are used on Russian territory, Russia will retaliate, likely even on American U.S. cities. So the president, Donald Trump, is very worried, very concerned, and still thinking about whether to send the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. Check my audio. Let's see. Okay. Then we have this here. I may have gone over this the last time. It's close. No, this was on Halloween. I hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. Hallow weekend, as many call it. Speaking of Halloween, it's my second favorite holiday, personally, outside of Christmas. The Yule season. Continuing with this here from open source intel. The Trump administration has reportedly authorized strikes on Venezuelan military sites, with the attacks expected to begin at any time. That was also from the Miami Herald. Huge news, more originally from the Miami Herald. Any moment, any day now, it could be right now, the U.S. is going to do military strikes on Venezuela as soon as this moment, that could be going on. It's very, very concerning, and we'll see. It's also very interesting that the U.S. is going to be going to war with all the cartels in South America and even Mexico now. That came out recently. We'll be getting into that post shortly from now. So, moving up here. Due to the fact the U.S. is about to attack military sites in much of Venezuela, the Venezuelan president Maduro, the Venezuelan socialist dictator Maduro, is going to be calling on Russia, Iran, and China for military support against the U.S. So that's huge news as well, that we have the Venezuelan president calling on the enemies of the West, Russia, Iran, and China, for military support against the U.S. That's for military forces, weapons, and equipment to use against the U.S. So interesting that we have a evil cartel connected socialist dictator in Venezuela. It's not very far. It's just in South America, like the northeast side of South America. That's very interesting as well, and very concerning. We'll see what if Russia, Iran, and China actually fully support Venezuela. That dictator they have there, Maduro, that could be a very large front if Russia, Iran, and China get fully involved in supporting Venezuela. It could be very similar to how Ukraine is going. That's how they would last far longer, is if they got the full support from Russia, Iran, and China. They would likely be getting more than weapons too. He's asking for, I think, full military support. Then we have this here from Iran about a couple, 2, 3 days ago. Iran says the U.S. cannot stop it from becoming a nuclear power in the Middle East. I believe Iran has nuclear weapons already. They've been developing them for quite some time now. I expected them to have nuclear weapons for a while now. I don't believe they don't have them. Iran has some of the most advanced missiles and missile technology in the world. So I doubt that they don't have nuclear weapons already. They likely have nuclear weapons already. They were saying becoming a nuclear power in the Middle East. Maybe that's because they already have them already. I believe Iran has had nuclear weapons for potentially over 20 years, as Steve Quayle, I believe it was, once mentioned. So that's really something. Iran telling the U.S. that they cannot stop it from becoming a nuclear power, maybe because they already are. That's the most likely possibility, I would say. Iran is already very likely a nuclear power. This here is great too. This is extremely relevant to the especially the domestic US here. So this was from Dr. Joseph Mercola. That's one great doctor right there. He said permanent standard time gives your body a healthier rhythm, energy, metabolism, and immune system to stay more synchronized, lowering risks of chronic conditions. So it also says there staying on a permanent standard time instead of shifting clocks twice a year could prevent millions of cases of obesity and hundreds of thousands of strokes, even across the US. It also says there your circadian rhythm, your body's internal clock works best with early morning light, which helps regulate sleep, energy, metabolism, and immunity. So you could definitely go and view that article. Looks like you would literally just have to put that in Mercola, take control of your health. Uh, then you probably find it somewhere over there. That's a great analysis from Dr. Joseph Mercola. Amazing, amazingly said, amazingly written there by Dr. Joseph Mercola. I've heard of him for years. I believe it was him. It's been a while. I recognize the last name. U.S. air travel could shut down. It could totally shut down, it says, due to due to the government shutdown that is still going on. That was from Bloomberg. The transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, said he is prepared to close U.S. airspace if the budget crisis makes flying unsafe. The Federal Aviation Administration is already short on air traffic controllers, and many of them are working without pay. So that's the ATC, the air traffic controllers. They are with the FAA, a government, a part of the government. So they're working without pay still. Anyway, it says here amid the chaos, more than 6,200 flights were delayed on Friday and nearly 500 were canceled. Over 6,000 flights were delayed on Friday and nearly 500 were canceled. So, due to the FAA and their difficulties and the ATC not being paid, U.S. air travel could totally shut down due to the ongoing U.S. government shutdown. This is an interesting economical post from this woman. It really shows how how difficult these times are financially and due to all the insane inflation that's going on, which is about to likely go into hyperinflation. Really something. So she is a respiratory therapist, and it says there she explains how things have gotten so expensive in America Even making $32 an hour, that's very good. Working 40 hours a week, she can't afford life. Her bi weekly take home after taxes, retirement, and health insurance for her and her 3-year-old daughter is $1,600. That's every 2 weeks after taxes. That's $3,200 per month to take home. Rent is $1,400 a month. That's below the national average. Yeah, that's definitely below the national average. Gas and electric average $300. It's a little on the higher side. I suppose that is the average. Child care for her 3-year-old, $1,100 a month, $1,100 a month. That's already at $2,800 just on, he meant to say on, mandatory bills. She said, the woman who's a respiratory therapist, she said, I have $400 left to put gas in my car, groceries on the table, toiletries, I believe shampoo, conditioner, toilet paper, laundry detergent, and any copays if they decide to go to the doctor's office. So Wall Street Apes there was saying if she had a car payment, she wouldn't even have any money at all left for food and toiletries. So we have this massive economic crisis going on right now. The economy is collapsing. It has been for a while. This woman who makes $32 an hour can't afford life. She could barely afford surviving on $32 an hour. Most people are making, a lot of people make $16, $17 an hour, uh, $20 an hour. She's making $32 an hour, working, that looks like 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. And she's having a very hard time surviving due to this economic collapse that is currently happening at this time that some people do not see at this moment. That's absolutely direct evidence right there. The woman making $32 an hour, she's not on the EBT. She's not talking about that problem. She's talking about working 40 hours a week on $32 an hour, and she just gets by with life. Crazy stuff. So she has one child that's a little over $1,000 a month due to her young child. Some people don't have children. Nonetheless, she's hardly getting by. Really, one large copay or big payment, and she has no money. If she has one big copay or one big payment, she'll have zero. She'll have no money in that situation. So the economy is collapsing. Society these days as a whole is collapsing. It has been for a while. It's a global collapse. It's not going to be just a depression or a crash. It's a total economic collapse. And this is just getting into hyperinflation. the inflation hasn't been, I don't think it has been too off the charts recently, too high. It's yet to go into like total hyperinflation. The dollar is backed by nothing. It is not backed by oil. It is not backed by gold. This woman is making more than quite a few people, and she could hardly afford life. There's people who make about half of what she does who do have children. They must be in a real situation right now, having a real hard time, probably maybe living off of like bank loans and things like that. It's terrible. The economy is collapsing. Even someone hardworking and someone with a very good pay as that woman. So, continuing from that, that's the woman there, and then there's the video. If you want to watch that at some point, it's there. It's on my page here, and Wall Street Apes, his page there. So we have the nuclear testing about to resume now. So the nuclear testing has now resumed. Not about to. I believe it has earlier tonight. From 10 p.m. GMT, I believe I'm not entirely sure what time zone, to November 4th, 7 a.m. GMT, there's a NOTAM, a notice to airmen. So that activates a restricted area in that airspace. Let's see. Up to flight level 60,000 feet. Likely for the test launch of a nuclear-capable Minuteman III ICBM from Vandenberg Space Force Base toward the Reagan test site on Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands. That's a very difficult name, whatever that before atoll is. This comes after Trump's call to restart nuclear testing. Apparently, the last U.S. test took place 32 years ago in 1992 at the Nevada test site. Huge news. So we have the nuclear testing continuing. That is because Russia has been doing that. So the U.S. is doing nuclear testing as well, getting prepared for possible nuclear war. That's the most major reason for doing nuclear testing. That's why it's been over 30 years. 1992, wow. This is this post right here with the Ukrainian drone. This might be the most insane one on here tonight. This is really quite something that they did. It's really something else. Let's see here. Stand by. Okay. Ukrainian troops are going viral with an unusual reward system. Eliminate occupiers, earn points, and spend them in a military marketplace. Just like in an online game. Vice Prime Minister Mikhailo Fedorov explained the system in a comment to The Guardian. In September alone, drone operator teams competing in the Army of Drones bonus system killed or wounded 18,000 troops. Points earned for eliminating Russians can be exchanged for weapons in a special online marketplace called Brave One. Not just weapons. So basically, an Amazon for war offering over 100 types of drones, autonomous vehicles, and other equipment. There are already There are already 400 units in the game that they made of the drones, using the drones. In August, there were only 95. So there's over 400 units. I believe that's like drone operators that are in that unusual reward system. Very, very interesting. That is one of the more creative, insane to some, things that they have come up with, making a game out of taking out Russian or even injuring the Russians that are invading Ukraine. That's really something, really something else that they did that. Wow. We have this here in Mexico. So at the Mexican government palace, it's a war zone right now. Um, this was sometime, I think, yesterday. The Mexican government palace was stormed. And now there's a Nepal like situation unfolding. For those who don't know what happened in Nepal, the government there was pretty much overthrown. They burned down the parliament, I believe, over there. They like destroyed the enemy to them government. They overtook the government in Nepal after, much like here in Mexico, over there in Mexico, they removed they had people that took out the opposition to I believe, the president there. So they had cartel backed, no, it was government and cartel connected. It's very much so connected. So they had some kind of assassins take out the opposing president there. So the Mexican government palace was stormed, and it's a war zone over there right now, much like Nepal. That's them throwing out furniture from the Mexican government palace. They're throwing the furniture out the window onto the street. Seems like there's a bit more than that going on over there. Those look like police on the street. There's just people walking around in the Mexican government palace, just throwing large pieces of furniture like that very large chair, lots of chairs, out the window of the Mexican government palace. Looks like the police there are setting up for the riots and protesters, things like that going on over there in Mexico. Looks like they deployed tear gas. The police were trying to break up the riots. Very, Very interesting. Again, they assassinated, I believe, an opposition leader there, like right before the election. So that was really, that's why the people in Mexico reacted that way. There's potentially a civil war or some kind of government overthrow that many of the people in Mexico are doing at this moment. We are also, the US, especially mainly from President Trump. President Trump is planning to send US troops into Mexico to target the cartels. That was from NBC, a mainstream news source. Nick Sorter said this is exactly how our military should be used, defending our own homeland. So we have the U.S. about to do military strikes and invade Venezuela. We have the U.S. about to go into Colombia around the same time. And then we have the U.S. now about to go in, especially with troops that we're about to do. The U.S. is about to do an invasion into Mexico to target the drug cartels. Lots of war going on at this time. And that's just against the cartels, mainly the cartels. We got World War III stuff on top of all of that. Absolutely tremendous news. Lots of war is very imminent. Keep on preparing. Prepare for World War III. Prepare for the total kinetic phase. Prepare for the very highly possible nuclear phase of World War III. Prepare for the economic collapse that is ongoing. Quite a lot is going on out in the world right now. People need to prepare for all of those things. I believe, yes, hurricane season is over. As for weather events, I will be monitoring things such as major flooding and things like that. Major weather events, especially the war, World War III, that is happening now. I'm sure more things may come out on the economic collapse. I'm sure I'll have more on the possible looters. There has been looting. There's been some looting already from the people who are no longer receiving their EBT benefits. So those are the people who don't get the food stamps, as they call them. They have been looting some stores already. It's the first few days. I expect by later this week it'll further intensify and get even more intense after that. Just total chaos. There's going to be widespread looting. I expect widespread looting from those people as they don't have food. They're not receiving their EBT benefits. So it's highly expected that they're going to go out and loot lots of stores. Then they're going to likely go into rich neighborhoods. They're going to flat out, they're likely going to flat out rob people on the street. It's really going to be, it's very likely going to be total chaos when these people run out of food more, they'll be just doing total acts of desperation and chaos that may just lead to total collapse and anarchy for a time. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Once again, keep on preparing. Love, light, and blessings to you all. I will be back soon with further updates. Once again, thanks